So we are filming this interview here in front of this mural, and it says something, and it's important to you. So can you tell me more about the mural?
Yes. Right. I love the sound of that glass break, and it's just like a waterfall of salvation. Yeah. So this mural is part of the concrete canvas project, which the city put on in Rock Bay, and you know, hey, it's Rock Bay, man. Like, lots of walls. It's nice and grimy. Perfect place to start Victoria's mural scene, right? If you want to call it that. But you know, so I applied to the city. I says, hey, I'm doing this book about Hans. He's one of the first mural artists, street artists in Victoria. Can we do a commemorative wall? So you know, proposals and CVs and paperwork later. It's insurance. We finally get and it's a miracle. Thank you, Victoria. So so what I decided to do here is just take straight up just jack drawings right out of the book, trace them up onto the wall there. We've got a piece from the movie Wizards up there, a Ralph Bakshi film. I should mention that this character right here was painted by Morgan Macaulay. Then some little cigar plain guy, number 7. Some Yes relayer kind of album cover stuff, Roger Dean influenced. Then we got up there some kind of old school Disney kind of stuff. I don't know what you call that, you know, Chuck Jonesy kind of stuff. But to me, that one gets you right into the world of skulking around, tagging, and that old Victorian kind of vibe, you know, which is really special to Hans's work, that old Gothic vibe, which is a big part of Victoria's graph origins. And so there's that. Then we got, boom, the big logo, the ghost gold stamp, and then he's tossing out some ectoplasm on the wall. Boom! Yeah! Yeah! And then up there we got this cute little rain girl, which I think is just would make the... Anyway, I love it. It's so sweet, so innocent, that one. Then right there's an old sticker from a skate shop called 6 to 40 on Douglas Street in the Oddfellows building. That was where early 90s a lot of the skateboard scene started, you know, along with a few other places. But yeah, that's from a sticker. But below there, that's Alphonse playing his trumpet, setting the mood, fully setting the mood. And then there's the cat right there. I think that, I don't know what cat that is. They always had cats, but the story goes is that cat would always wander to stores nearby, and they'd just see the cat like down in the village or the town, you know, walking by the shops and going for a stroll. And then right at the very end, I finished it. I kind of went back in time. And then right at the very end is the real deep fairy phase. Worlds inside of worlds, LSD, mushroom architecture of the infinite magic of the island style. So, hey! Get a little shot of that. So see, this is like what it is. This is mural. Basically, I took all Hans's drawings and just like smashed them all through a dump truck and spewed them out on this wall here. So this will be here for as long as the building's here, I'm pretty sure. I power washed it, coated it in silicone, and it's here. It's here for good.
Can you tell us about the book? What's the book about?
This book right here, you're asking me about this book. Well, this is a very magical book. It's not a book of spells, it's the Hans Fear book. The Hans Fear book, you see? Now, basically, in one sentence, this is about the life and art of Victoria legend Hans Fear.
Can you tell us how you put all the book together? A little bit of the story, when did you start, and all this stuff?
Very, very good question. Hans passed away in 2001, and ever since then his brother Alphonse and several of his friends have been talking about and trying to make a book with all the work that was in Alphonse's collection and his parents' collection, and so gradually the people kept contributing to Alphonse, and then nothing happened, because who knows how to make a book? I don't. The only reason I know how is because I got two really good buddies in Montreal, Harley Smart, another Victoria cat, and Ryan Thompson, Victoria cat as well. Antiism Book Art is their new venture out there in Montreal. So these crazy guys, they think they can just buy a bunch of old-fashioned fancy bookbinding gear and start making art books, short-run, elegant, fine art books. And look, they've gone ahead and done it. So when I went out there and saw those guys, I said, you know what, let's make this book happen. And it took us a year corresponding, flying across the country, running through cornfields in Ontario. And we got there. Well, by God, we got there.
How people can get a hand on the book?
How can they? Yes. Well, we made 100 copies. That's all I could afford to do at this level of luxury. And I'll give you a taste of that. Ooh, yeah. So at this level, I could only do 100. So that means that about half of them have sold. Many people have said, oh, I want one, but we still have about 50 left. So if you want to get in touch with me, I have, I'm easy to find on the internet, Peter Allen Spur, whatever, you can find me. And you could put a link here. And yeah, just a good old e-transfer, money transfer. And I'll come and meet you in Victoria. And if you live elsewhere, we'll have to calculate shipping, because yeah, it did cost $160 per unit, and that's not even making any money. We're gonna kick over some money to the Schizophrenic Society, and a small portion will be put back into Alphonse's estate to make more books at soft cover second edition for those of you who don't need a collector's item such as this. So yeah, hit me up on the socials. Yeah.
You told me there is some text on the book.
There is some text, and it's it would have been nice to have more text in the book, more stories about, because Hans's art's one thing, but the person he was, the character he was, that was where the magic was for me. Hearing the stories about him, that makes me want to live harder, dream harder, play harder. So the text at the beginning is all I could really get from people. I ripped some stuff off from the Facebook page, which are just brief comments from people. But I did get some really good stories from Amos Daniels, another Victoria legend. Quinn Myhill Jones, another Victoria hip-hop original cat. He's got some, tales of jumping on rooftops and getting busted and going into the cop shop and, laughing it up with, the kind of things these guys, these were the good old days, when there was some innocence still in the world. Now, it's a bit dark out there these days, but some of these stories you're just like, how did, this is magical. They're just pure fun. So yeah, and there's a little quote from Jamer in here, James Lindsay's son. More.
Do you want to read something? Something jump on something.
Sure, yeah.
Just an example.
I think my one of my favorites is Alphonse. Let's go to Alphonse. Straight to the great line of fear eccentrics here, and let's see. Here's one short Hanno story. When we were kids, we used to, actually it's two, we used to have lots of free time on our hands. One day we decided to make a tape for our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rose. We taped ourselves by speaking into a machine with long pauses in between. "Come on in, Mrs. Rose. There are tea and biscuits on the table. How are you doing?" And so on. So we invited her over and hid behind the curtains and played the tape. Of course it didn't work, mainly because we were laughing too hard. Anyway, the other story I meant to read was from Amos, and it's about Alphonse. Yes, this is the one I meant to read. Let's see. Fardigan and Mardigan. One day, Hans and his brother Alphonse were outside playing a game with their pet hamsters called Fardigan and Mardigan, The Higher We Fly, which was basically just tossing the hamsters into the air and catching them safely. So those are a few little cute stories, but now this is if you want to just cut to the meat. There are so many, this is from Amos Daniels. There are so many great stories to tell about Hans and I's antics and adventures. It's hard to pick just one, but here goes. I'm guessing the year was around 1993, and there was a free concert at the Beacon Hill Bandshell. Sound Advice, Victoria's only rap group at the time, was performing and opening up for Green Day. Green Day was not on a major label at the time and far less famous. A super fun outdoor concert on a beautiful summer day. Hans had his troll doll hand puppet on his right hand all day, and as soon as Green Day hit the stage, Hans rushed on to the stage. I should have edited out so many of those stages. And somehow managed to become the guest bass guitarist for a few songs, with the hand puppet on the whole time, no less. I never laughed so hard. He sounded great. To this day, I have no idea how one could play bass that well with a troll doll on their hand. Best of times. Yeah. Margaret, John has some nice stuff, his dad, John. But I don't want to ruin, I don't want to just take too many of the stories away, but Jamer likes to, you know how Beavis and Butthead would put their shirts over their heads and, cornholio? Well, Jamer is recounting a story when they used to deliver papers in Gordon Head together, and what would they do? They would pull their pants down and put their shirts up over their heads and deliver papers on their skateboard, and that was called doing gourd. So there's a lot of, Hans's lingo. He kind of created a whole Victoria skate punk abbreviation style of words, So there's a bit of the glossary in there of some of his favorite words. To be bayed is to be like kind of ugh. Stuff like that. You get it. Yeah. So basically, it's a very short introduction, a few stories, and then boom, we go straight into the writing, which is all just snippets. When you look at someone's sketchbook and you see lots of little snippets of stream of consciousness writing and stuff they get from, quotes from the here and the air and the ether. And then I go into the olds, because that was another abbreviation for old drawings or old art was olds. So, we got some of his old sketchbook stuff. And then, one of the things you'll notice in Hans's work is he always puts his hands first, and that's why I'm wearing these gloves out of respect, because he had this Disney kind of thing where he was always flexing the hands, but it's also a real, original b-boy kind of style. So that's why we got the hands, and on the cover here, the gold stamp ghost with the hands, boom, realizing the self, come, letting the magic out, boom, shaka. So then after we got the, you got the olds, and we move into the fairy section. So a lot of old, people know Victoria that aren't from the island as like where the really beautiful fairy girls are from. Yeah, so the early fairy kind of magic of Victoria, which is very much the vibe here. So he draws these intricate worlds that just go in and in and in and fold onto themselves like time machines. And then we got, you know, a pencil section. We got you know, a deej section where, because Hans, you know, we played turntables sometimes, but you know, he played instruments of all kinds. But he always did flyers for hip hop shows. Yeah. So we got the, you know, the deej section after, and we got study that anatomy. You know, he was always studying the anatomy. That's why he could draw hands so well, right? You know, breaking it down. And you know, after that we got the knower collection, which is knower is just kind of like, oh yeah, they're a knower, like they understand kind of thing, they get it. There's air might appear is a section where there's flipping planes and stuff, you know. So it just never ends. It's a lot of artwork to take in all at once. Then there's a mocks section. This is a collabs with Jeffro Halliday, another Victoria cat, legendary guy. All these dudes help create the scene here, and you know, it evolves and changes, but you know, it's set Victoria on a good course, all these guys that came out. So the mocks is like, you know, making fun of friends. He was one of, another favorite part about Hans is the mockery and the letters that he sent to Alphonse when Alphonse lived in Toronto. You know, a lot of his letters, he really breaks down how he's feeling and the struggles he's going through. And the graffiti section is not as big as I'd like it to be, because there's, for some reason, not a lot of photos survived or were able to be found. And so there's just a small taste of his graph work. There's a little Jamer, Hans and Jamer were in a crew called PIC with Dubnut One and who else? Dag and Degree One. And so yeah, I threw in a Jamer there. And the back is dedications, all the people that have done, you know, big ghost lettering everywhere. And then there's, of course, portraits of the artist, which gives some photos, darn gloves, some photos of the great Hans Speer there, reading Diet and Exercise magazine. Don't know who took these photos, so there's no credits except in the beginning of the book. Just a big shout out to a bunch of people. Yeah, so it's got a bit of everything, you know, a little bit of everything. So it's my way of saying thank you for the inspiration that set me on my journey, and also it's a way to recognize mental health, because Hans was schizophrenic. He struggled with that. You know, we don't have to get into what that's all about, but you know, it's part and parcel with being an innovative, super genius artist, I think. So, you know, as we get older, we all ride that line of how do we feel? We have computers in our lives now and disconnection and stuff. And I think, you know, it's important to talk about mental health and recognize, you know, that it's part of life, man. Like, who wants a perfect person anyway? So Hans Speer, I love you. Thank you.
Now, tell us a story or something that happened with him when you were hanging around.
I just remember a real quick one here. One time when I was in high school, Hans was like, I got to hang out with him one day, and he never had, you know, he'd just roam around and didn't have much money for food, and he was always cleaning out your cupboard. So I said one day, like, yo man, just come to my house and, you know, we'll have spaghetti with me and my dad, because mom was at work. And so we had mom's special sauce, and Hans came over to my house and hung out, and like at my house. He was at my house drawing, and then we all sat around and ate spaghetti with my dad, which is, it's hilarious, right? Because, you know, it's not like a, hey everyone, it's just kind of a little bit awkward, and so there was lots of jokes and funny little moments. And then we walked like down to Oak Bay to see Firos, another old school Victoria graph guy, good friend of Hanner's. And Hans was farting like the whole way because of the spaghetti sauce, right? So then we just get to Gabe's and we did a bunch of drawing. We got some this is when 40s old English people were. We got a few 40s and just wandered around, like just writing on things and drawing and having beers and stuff, and that was basically the night. But I'll always remember that night just because of the spaghetti sauce, and like I felt that intimate connection with Hans because he came and ate with my family, So that one I'll treasure. Yeah.